What does it mean to be a warlock? Power. Only warlocks understand true power. True power lies in knowledge, in understanding. Power channeled, not controlled. The storm is raw power. The trance is true understanding. Both are required. The Stormcaller, then, is both the question and the answer, and thus what it means to be a warlock.
What's up everyone, Darcblade here with another episode in my Guide in Destiny series. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at one of the new subclasses from the Taken King expansion, the Stormcaller Warlock. Now remember that the builds I use in these videos are general builds that work well for me, and they may not work as well for you. Also, the damage you do through your abilities may be higher or lower depending on various factors like gear, light level and so on. Lastly, these builds in these videos are aimed at endgame content. With the Taken King, the Stormcaller subclass is unlocked once you complete the Stormcaller's Path quest. Through channeling raw power, the Stormcaller is able to wield bolts of arc lightning to obliterate their foes. They specialise in destroying groups of foes with AoE and chain lightning abilities. Now moving on to talk about the 3 grenade abilities in the Stormcaller's arsenal. The first is the Pulse Grenade. This is taken directly from the Striker Titan and functions pretty much the same. The grenade, once it hits the surface, detonates and then pulses up to 4 times, dealing moderate damage with each pulse. The explosion radius is around 5 meters. The pros for this is that it can be used to deal a large amount of damage on stationary or slow moving targets. When it comes to slow moving targets, sometimes it's better to throw the pulse grenade at where they are going to be and not where they are for maximum damage. The pulse grenade can also be used nicely for area denial. This works well especially in PvP. The cons though are that it has a fairly low damage radius and foes can easily move out of the pulses if they're fast enough. The second grenade is the Storm Grenade, a unique grenade only available to the Stormcaller. This grenade, once thrown down, will detonate on surfaces, creating a mini storm for a short period of time. The storm periodically damages foes within its radius, thanks to lightning strikes from the storm, hitting foes with moderate damage. Unfortunately, the lightning strikes tend to be a little bit random. The pros for the Storm Grenade are again that it can deal decent damage to foes who are slow moving or stationary. It is a happy medium between the slow damage output of the Pulse Grenade and the fast but weak damage output of the ARCBOLT Grenade. The major cons are again that fast moving foes can avoid the lightning strikes. The third and final grenade is the ARCBOLT Grenade. This is taken directly from the Blade Dancer Hunter and functions pretty much the same. The ARCBOLT Grenade sends out bolts of arc light at up to 3 targets caught in the initial blast radius. Its initial radius is fairly large, so it can easily hit a group of foes. Also, the arc bolts, once hitting a foe, can chain to additional nearby targets. The pros for this grenade is that it is a really easy grenade to use, as the bolts home in on their targets. It works well in PvE, as it can kill most weaker foes with ease, thanks to its large radius and chaining effect. It is also great for bringing down wounded or fleeing targets in PvP. The cons are though that it does the least amount of damage when compared to the other grenades. Now moving on to talk about the jumping abilities available to the Stormcaller. Your main jump is Glide. This ability allows the Stormcaller to glide slowly through the air when activated. It can be enhanced in various ways. The first enhancement is Focus Control. This upgrades your glide to give better directional control while in the air. The second enhancement is Focus Burst. This upgrades the glide ability to provide it with an initial boost of speed. The last enhancement to glide is Balanced Glide. This upgrades glide to provide bonuses to both its speed and its control. None of these upgrades to glide are that outstanding, and Balanced Glide for me is the best out of the 3 enhancements for both PvE and PvP. The super ability available to the Stormcaller is the Mighty Storm Trance. Once activated, the Stormcaller will summon the very heavens into their bodies and channel arc lightning through their hands. For this super, the camera will pan out into third person to give you a better idea of your surroundings. Once activated, your super energy will start to slowly drain. During this time, the Stormcaller will float and shoot chain lightning from their hands at nearby foes. You deal damage by using the melee or fire buttons. The distance of your lightning is fairly large, so you don't have to be in melee distance for your targets to be brought down. The lightning you fire from your hands will also chain from target to target if there are multiple foes within range. During your super, you can fire grenades and jump as normal, but you cannot fire your weapons until the super wears off. Storm Trance does last for a fair amount of time, even without it being enhanced. It can be also great at clearing waves of adds. It's a great super for clearing adds, and it can also still deal heavy damage to tough foes, but sometimes it's better to wait for a wave of adds in order to not only dispatch them quickly, but to generate orbs for your allies. You also need to be wary when you have Storm Trance active, as it does not give you damage resistance, and you can still be brought down fairly quickly, especially in PvP. Storm Trance can be enhanced in various ways. The first enhancement is Landfall. Once you cast Storm Trance, the Warlock will fire a bolt of arc lightning into the ground, creating a large AoE blast around them. Landfall deals massive damage in PvE, and it will instantly kill foes in PvP. This can also be cast while airborne. You have to be careful though, as sometimes waiting for the perfect landfall blast can lead to you taking more damage than you would like, or worse. In PvE, you can plan landfall attacks better than in PvP. In PvP, landfall works best when used in melee range in panic situations. The second enhancement is Superconductor. This basically doubles the Storm Trance's chaining capabilities. This allows your lightning to bounce to even more targets, making ad clearing even easier. This is better in PvE than PvP, as rarely in PvP will you have large groups of foes grouped up together. The third enhancement is Ionic Blink. If you press the sprint button while Storm Trance is active, then the Warlock will teleport forward a short distance. At first this may not seem useful, but it comes in handy in PvP at times. It really helps close the gap on fleeing opponents or confuse opponents when you're trying to take them head on. However, in PvE, Ionic Blink means that you'll miss out on the landfall damage or increased chaining abilities that Superconductor gives you. I really like how Ionic Blink can make you very unpredictable in PvP, as long as you're not easily disorientated. The melee ability available to the Stormcaller is Thunderstrike. When cast, the Stormcaller will lash out with both hands, sending forward bolts of arc lightning at foes over a fair distance. You don't actually have to be in melee range for Thunderstrike to hit an opponent. This works well if you're out of ammo and need to reload, yet you're not in melee range with a target. It also often surprises targets, especially in PvP. Thunderstrike can be enhanced in various ways. The first is Chain Lightning. This allows the Thunderstrike's arc lightning to chain to another nearby enemy. This works well in PvE more than PvP, as foes are more likely to be near each other in PvE. Not saying that it's useless in PvP though. The second enhancement is Amplitude. This increases the range of Thunderstrike even further. I mean, Thunderstrike on its own without this buff can damage targets quite a distance away, but with this it can go even further. This makes it far more useful in PvP in my opinion, as you can really surprise foes who think they are at a safe distance away from your melee ability. The third enhancement to Thunderstrike is Rising Storm. This allows hits with your Thunderstrike to charge both your super and melee abilities. This for me is the best enhancement, as it not only is great in both PvE and PvP, but it also helps you recharge most of your other abilities, allowing you to use them more often. Next, moving on to the ability modifiers. Ability modifiers are found in the 6th and 8th row of the talent tree. Ability modifiers are split into 2 tiers. For the Stormcaller's tier 1 you have the following. Option 1 is PULSEWAVE. When you are critically wounded, basically when your shield is gone, the Stormcaller triggers a PULSEWAVE that will boost the agility of you and nearby guardians, giving you extra speed for a decent amount of time. This works well when you're in danger and you need to get to a safe location. It's a nice survivability tool for both PvE and PvP. It's also nice in PvP to give you that extra bit of speed, especially if you have most of your passive points in armor and recovery. Option 2 is Feedback. After you are hit by a melee attack, your Thunderstrike melee ability will be fully charged and its power increased. Not only will it deal more damage, but it means that you don't necessarily have to have high strength in your gear if you go with this perk. However, sometimes in PvP, more often than not, if you are meleeed by a foe, you're soon dead afterwards, unless you get the first hit on them. Option 3 is Transcendence. When you cast your Storm Trance super with both your grenade and melee abilities charged, your health will be instantly restored to full. Also, it means your super will drain slower once cast, meaning you have an extended time with your Storm Trance. This is a great perk, but for optimal use, it requires you to sometimes save your melee and grenade abilities. With that in mind, maybe when your super's just about to fill up, save your grenade and melee abilities. However, if your super's got quite a while to charge, then go nuts with them. For the Stormcaller's tier 2 you have the following. Option 1 is Electrostatic Mind. This allows your Storm Trance to charge faster when near allies, so working with teammates close by will give you more supers. It also has an additional effect of when foes are near to you, they will take a small amount of AoE damage. It's not massive damage, and in all honesty, if I picked this perk, it would be for the fast super rather than the small AoE damage. Electrostatic Mind works great for players who like to play in fire teams and stick near each other. This applies to both PvP and PvE. Option 2 is Arc Web. This allows your grenades to generate and chain arc lightning to nearby opponents. This adds even more area of effect damage to your grenades. This works better in PvE than PvP, as enemies are more clumped up together in PvE when compared to the Crucible. Not to say that it's useless in PvP though, especially when you play game modes like Control. Option 3 is Perpetual Charge. This allows your grenade kills to recharge your melee ability, and your melee kills to recharge your grenade ability. This works nicely for sustained damage, as long as there are adds about. The only downside for Perpetual Charge is that you need to actually kill a foe with your melee attack, not just hit them. Getting kills with your grenade is not as difficult as your melee ability at times. This option works well if you lack discipline or strength in your gear. Next are the passive abilities. These are modifiers to your base stats, which include your armor, recovery, and agility. These are found in the 5th and 7th column of the talent tree. Now I would say these are down to personal preference at the end of the day. Again, these are divided into 2 tiers. In tier 1 you have the following. Option 1 is Arcane Wisdom. This gives you +2 agility and +2 recovery. Option 2 is Arcane Spirit. This gives you +2 armor and +2 recovery. Option 3 is Arcane Force. This gives you +2 armor and +2 agility. With tier 2 you have the following. Option 1 is Ancestral Order. This gives you +2 armor, +2 agility and +2 recovery. Option 2 is Chaos Order. This gives you +5 agility. And option 3 is Divine Order. This gives you +4 armor and +2 recovery. Now Destiny is a game that allows for multiple playstyles, and thus multiple ways of speccing your Guardian. However, I tend to use the following. For grenades, I will tend to go with Storm Grenade for a happy medium between the light but fast damage of the Arc Grenade and the slow but long lasting damage of the Pulse Grenade. Although at times, for different situations, I will sometimes switch to the Arc Grenade for fast PvP matches or the Pulse Grenade for stationary PvE bosses. With Glide, I take Balance Glide, as it's a decent enhancement. Also remember, when using Glide, don't be afraid to turn off and on the Glide ability when taking big leaps. For Storm Trance, I will often use either Superconductor for PvE, as it's great for clearing waves of additional enemies. However, for PvP, I will tend to switch to Ionic Blink, due to the fact that it can be used to close the gap on fleeing foes, as well as make you unpredictable when approaching foes. Landfall is also a fine enhancement, but can be found on the exotic gloves, the Impossible Machines. So I tend to use these to give my Storm Trance that extra enhancement without sacrificing Superconductor or Ionic Blink. For the Thunderstrike melee ability, I tend to go for Rising Storm, as it leads to more supers and more melee attacks in the long run. For the ability modifiers, in tier 1, I tend to go for Transcendence. But if going with this one, I need to be more aware of my super energy as well as my grenade and melee cooldowns, saving both my melee and grenade abilities for when my super is about to be used. This is something you have to get used to if you're going with the Transcendence ability modifier. That being said though, I can see the benefits of PULSEWAVE, and will sometimes switch to PULSEWAVE for the speed buff if me or my team need it. For tier 2, I tend to go for Electrostatic Mind over the other options, simply because it will lead to more supers in the long run. However, this is not as useful if you're playing solo, in which case I will tend to switch to Perpetual Charge or Arc Web. With the passives, I tend to focus on full armor and full recovery. Agility is not that important to my playstyle. As for gear stats, I tend to balance between intellect, discipline and strength, as playing with a fire team with the ability modifiers available to the Stormcaller can lead to a lot of supers. Overall, the Stormcaller Warlock is an area of effect specialist, able to take on waves of weaker foes in PvE as well as unaware teams in the Crucible. They tend to suffer at times on tough bullet sponge bosses in PvE, as they cannot utilise their AoE abilities when compared to fighting multiple foes. That being said, if you are in a fight where adds are about to spawn, having a Stormcaller Warlock in your team will result in a lot of dead additional enemies as well as a whole host of orbs for your teammates. The Stormcaller really is an AoE damage specialist who shines even brighter when their teammates are near them. Anyway, I've been Darcblade, bringing you a guide to the Stormcaller Warlock as I guide you through Destiny. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.